I was expecting just a pelvic examination to check where I was on my pregnancy and so on. But she practiced the smear without telling me. So she put the disposal into my vagina without telling me. So it hurt me. I went out of the office and I was crying really.
This is Elise. She was so distressed by what happened during her appointment, she went online to see if others had had the same experience.
She was doing what she thought it was right to me, but without explanation, without my consent, and really in a rude manner.
What Elise found online were trainee doctors discussing whether it had been right to practice on patients without asking their consent.
I did my first pelvic examination on a patient under anesthesia. It doesn't really shock me. We're students. We have to learn somehow.
One day I was offered, "Do you want to practice entering a tube in Mr. X? He has just passed away." Well, I didn't hesitate as I knew this was going to be my only opportunity.
Elise and her husband Karim began investigating how medical students were being taught.
My husband found a paper from the University of Lyon.
The paper described how students practice vaginal examinations on sleeping patients, but there was no mention of consent.
And we were so shocked by that Karim just tweeted.
The tweet prompted a nationwide debate. The University of Lyon removed the paper from their site, saying it didn't reflect their practices.
The law is very clear on this topic. It just doesn't seem to be taken into account. So this is my blog. I started it after hearing about problems of consent in French medicine, and I started collecting testimonies from people who experienced that lack of consent.
Many people contacted Anne-Charlotte, wanting to tell their stories.
The idea was to show that it wasn't just a series of random cases that had nothing to do with each other, but it was a systematic problem.
First visit to the gynaecologist. No information, no consent regarding the gestures.
He introduced an enormous metallic speculum, which was very cold, and opened it, which felt like my vagina was being torn apart. The only thing he said was, "Relax."
An act that could seem completely trivial for a doctor, like pelvic examination, could be interpreted completely differently by the patient.
Medical officials told us that in most cases, consent is sought. But some doctors have argued that getting approval is not always practical and that patients should trust their doctors.
The patient trusts in us. So, do we need to describe all that we will do on the body? Personally, I think that we can sometimes use the patient body to train the young surgeons to do their job of tomorrow. This is normal. This is how we learn.
For me, consent means I can say yes or no to something I have understood. So you have to explain me what you are doing, why, and you have to ask me if I agree or not, and it is my right to say yes or no.
You're going to fall asleep shortly. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
It was my only time on a patient under anesthesia. I think nothing justifies not getting consent.
I was very shocked because first of all, I didn't want to do that, and second of all, it was a rape. You know, a rape is when you penetrate someone that doesn't agree. I think I've been a rapist, so it was quite difficult to be aware of that.
Doctors want to take care of others. But what happens when, as a trainee, your superiors ask you to do something you feel is wrong?
When I read about the debate that started on Twitter, it made me realize that I myself had performed a rape. and I felt very ashamed not to have thought about that at the time.
French law states that a doctor should always get consent for any procedure, but medical students are raising concerns that this is not what they are taught in practice.
I had been told that I had to obey as quickly as possible to what the surgeon or resident told me, for they might be angry if I didn't perform as told. So I was in this kind of obedient state of mind, and I did it.
We practiced a rectal examination on an incursion man who hasn't given his consent for it. We were 4 students. That man didn't need 4 students to perform a rectal examination. I want to remain anonymous because I worry they don't let me be a doctor and they don't let me have my degree if I'm too vocal about it.
I was in my 4th year of medicine and I was with 4 other students in accident and emergency. A resident was demonstrating putting a urinary catheter up on a patient under general anesthesia. As no one had already done it, the resident ordered us to, so we all did. The procedure of putting the tube up the penis to collect urine would cause him pain when he woke up. I was happy to do the procedure as it's quite rare to be able to, but after I felt quite guilty.
L'évolution ne peut pas venir d'eux, c'est trop facile. L'évolution doit venir des enseignants eux-mêmes. L'évolution doit venir de l'ordre des médecins.
Thousands have signed a petition calling for, amongst other things, a government investigation and for non-medical professionals to teach ethics.
Dès lors que la médecine est enseignée que par des médecins, on est sur un risque de reproduction de pratiques, certaines excellentes et d'autres moins bonnes.
Things have changed a lot since the last century. The intimacy of the patients are more respected. So we didn't think it was anymore an issue, but it seems that we have still to make some improvement in the way we obtain the consent of our patients.
I think in France the new generation of doctors are starting a kind of revolution in hospitals because we are asking for ours and the patient's rights to be respected.